I would now like to turn to David Pelletier. You have the floor.
Okay. Thank you very much. Microphone working? Good. So I want to follow the example that Carlo had and Andre just had in identifying some challenges. I'm as much a fan of data and trying to use it in policy development and implementation as the next person. But I want to pick up on the food insecurity experience scale in particular to illustrate some potential pitfalls with that indicator and how we can anticipate them and be ready to address them. One of them relates to the concept of it being a global reference that is valid in all countries, all contexts, regardless of national, ethnic, cultural, historical circumstances. On the face of it, this may not be quite believable. And I want to draw upon the earlier experience, decades of experience, using anthropometry, the growth of children, as a global reference, where after the experts had convinced themselves that indeed all children around the world will grow in the same way in the first 5 years of life if they're given the opportunity, the experts convinced themselves of that, but for many years and in many places, it didn't have good face validity in the eyes of policymakers. It was hard to believe, especially when they were looking at statistics like 50% of their children falling well below the reference. So questions arose as to, are our children different in some way? Is the reference applicable everywhere? And I think we could anticipate there are going to be questions like this with the experiential scale. Because first of all, it's based on self-reports of experience over the last 12 months. So there's a perception of subjectivity, of possible response bias. Two kinds of response bias might be questioned. One is social desirability, that some people may not want to admit the experience they're having with providing food for themselves and their families. And the other is perceived benefits bias. In some settings, respondents may think that if they answer in a certain way, there will be some social protection or food assistance programs or other livelihood assistance. So the developers of the scale are urging that great care be given in the training of enumerators and in the phrasing of the questions, and that the respondents know what this is for and what it's not for. And that's very appropriate advice. One question is the extent to which enumerators in the field across the country are actually following that advice. Do we have mechanisms to assess the quality with which the survey is being administered? So I think there are ways to deal with this, but we need to anticipate the reaction of policymakers and the actual way in which the data are collected in the field. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you. Very important to remind us about that key question. All children grow in the same way if they were given the same foods until age 5, and how we can collect that evidence or not, and do we have the right scale. So I will get back to you on that one as well, to hear a bit more on your political correct or incorrect insights that I'm sure you have.